All right, folks, this is Kayla Ebby, school counselor in Davis, California. It's day 62 of the Educator Chipotle Challenge.
That's right.
Yes.
Isn't it right?
That's right.
We are doing an Educator Shout Out Interview.
Shout out, right?
Woo-woo.
Shout out.
Out, shout out.
And I'm with...
Skye Phelan.
Yeah, right, that's my daughter, and I'm Lyndsay Dawkins, and I like to do education programming for kids, out in nature. Go ahead.
So I'm in 8th grade, and
Why? What country?
I'm in 8th grade, and I go to Davis Junior High.
A wonderful one at that, huh?
Yes, that's
All right.
All right.
Thanks, mate.
Great.
Lyndsay and Skye, would you share an experience at school that you had that was inspiring or empowering, and if there were any educators involved, to share what their role was in that experience?
Yeah, I have a fun one. I remember one day, and then I'll pass it off to you to share too, but Skye came back from the day where they all stepped outside. They had 17 minutes of silence for some of the beautiful young ones that were killed in the gun violence. And she came back after that day, and we had said to Skye, if you feel like there's more to do, you make this day whatever you need to make it for you, because it's important. Well, she left the 17 minutes of silence, and then she was walking back, and there were some kids. She walked some kids back to class, and then she noticed some other kids out there, and they seemed like they had a very different energy than the very kind of superficial energy of the 17 minutes. And so something in her gut just told her to go back out there. And I think why don't you describe it? Something really special.
Yeah, so I walked one of my friends to class, and then I was walking back to class, and I saw people in a circle, and I was like, well, what are they doing? So I went up, and then I noticed that there was this one girl talking, and she was just like sharing how she felt, and how she was thinking about how no one really respected like the 17 minutes, and so she, like the people that wanted to stay really stayed afterward, and they weren't just there because they wanted to skip class or and I just thought it was great that like my school was able to let kids do that and like express how they were feeling. I just thought that was really great.
Skye came back from school that day, and she just had this she had like this light about her, and she had a profound experience where she felt like she had connected with another group of kids to something that was deeply meaningful inside of them, and it was a very real moment. It wasn't an all-show moment. It was a moment of almost, connecting to the souls of those who were gone and just being part of them here, marking what had happened and holding them with a lot of care and tenderness. And in some ways, she has these little yen for some, political activism, and I mean that's part of stuff that,
because it's hard to do a lot when you're a kid, so like I felt like we did something as a group. But the one thing about it was like there wasn't like an official leader, but then there's like people started stepping up and they just filled in the role for leader, because that the thing with the 17 minutes, there was no real like leader in it, so no one really did anything. They kind of just stood around and like talk to their friends. But with this, there was like a leader, and she was leading people, and I just felt like, wow, this feels a lot more like we're respecting the people.
Wow, that's such a beautiful way of describing from your perspective what happened that day. And I remember that day as a school counselor, watching students use their voice and feel empowered and free to express yourselves.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing and for being part of that, for making a difference in that moment. It doesn't have to be an extravagant act to make a difference.
Yeah.
Maybe just a very real act, like a moment of just feeling very vulnerable even, There's a lot of power in vulnerability.
Absolutely.
We forget that sometimes, But the true, authentic, vulnerable voice definitely is one of the most beautiful voices to hear.
Amen, sister.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right.
Yay! Good day, mates. All right, Skye. From
Yes,
your
Skye.
perspective as a student,
Right.
what resources are necessary to have at school to support yours and other students' mental, social, and emotional health and well-being?
Right.
Well, I think if you go beyond the resources, it's how people feel, really. Like, if they feel accepted, if they feel loved, if they feel like people appreciate them from who they are, then that's great. So I feel like resources could be if teachers take time in class to, like, I don't know, check up with the students. Like, I remember in 7th grade I had a class, and a teacher, she would always be like, how are you guys doing today? Like, what's up? How you feeling? And I don't know, that was one of my favorite classes because she took the time to ask how her students were doing, and then sometimes she would just like devote periods to like checking in, you know, and we would have a circle and talk about how we were feeling, and I feel like that was one of my favorite classes because I could just, I don't know, I could really be myself in it, and she just took the time to make everyone feel really important and accepted. Yeah.
I could even tag on to that and say that, you know, as a parent, when I think about what are kids being imbued with during these years in school, and the focus clearly is math, science, English, history, right? And then maybe a few little things that satellite around all that. But what happens when we get out in the world? We live. Mm-hmm. And what really, in my opinion, needs to happen on a huge transformative level is to bring emotional intelligence as actually a part, a class that's happening, a resource that has money behind it and that's been being taught to kids so that they can handle situations that are dramatic or worrisome or sometimes dangerous, that they have not only a class that they could go to where they start to get the tools of how to handle these things, but this will help them in relationships throughout their life, whether it be love relationships, work, friendships, networking. Emotional intelligence is just, it's one of the most important tools you can have. And the resources that we put towards it in education are so minimal. And they should be, in my opinion, number one. It's how do we live? And if you can live with others in an emotionally intelligent way, I just think that conflict would be less in the world. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we could start building a society of people having a very supportive, connected way of being with each other.
Yeah, I mean, imagine how the world would be if we focused primarily on that and then expected you to learn math and how that can integrate into your, mm-hmm. you know, multifaceted lives.
Yeah.
You know how much I've used OChem, organic chemistry, since I studied it in high school and college, and so, but emotional intelligence I'm just working on every day. Being a mom, you know, being an educator, being
mm-hmm. I feel like my school, the school that I go to, really focuses on that a lot more than other schools. Like they,
it's good.
Yeah, they spend time and care, like, to teach people how to act in situations that you have trouble with and stuff like that. So, yeah.
May I ask who the teacher is that you?
Miss Kimmel. She we would have this thing when we would have a circle, and we would, I don't know, we just talked about stuff, and I felt like that was a great class. Yeah.
You did like roses and thorns.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
I think a weekly basis or a daily
basis. And I mean, sometimes we would just share out with just our group if we didn't have enough time to do the whole class. But I felt like it was never forgot. It was always there, and it meant a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, did it prevent some conflicts from happening in your teams in a way, you think?
Yeah, I feel like we got closer as a team when we would hear about how sucky the week was or how great it was, and we would just kind of apply that to if they were acting like mad at us during something that we would think, oh, in their thorn they said that they're having a fight with their parents or something, so maybe this is why, and they're not acting like, anyway.
So you learned empathy through that.
Yeah, definitely.
We're able to apply that practically in your work with those teams.
Yeah.
Experiences and moments where you are having a child step into somebody else's shoes are just unbelievably important, because then you have this, you know, this caring for, oh gosh, this person's going through this and I never even imagined it. And, you know, it makes you want to contribute to them rather than fight with them.
Mm-hmm.
So On this note, I'm going to have to leave the rest of the interview, but I'm so excited about this. So
Me too.
I
Thank you
just
so much for
full
being
support.
part of it.
I'll see you all later. All right.
Skye, would you like to shout out to any educators that have made a difference in your life and to share how they've impacted you positively?
The school that I go to, I think all of the educators there are just like, they've impacted me a lot because it's a great school. But the one that's helped me the most really is Mr. Nenni. He's my math teacher, and I'm not the best at math, but
Not yet, anyway.
not yet. But I felt like I went into my 7th grade math class and was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna do well in this. I'm just probably gonna not be very good. And then I had this incredible teacher that was like willing to help me and make sure I got everything and understood everything. And I hadn't had a math teacher like that before, who actually really wanted me to succeed. And I just felt like there was, if I wanted to succeed, which I did a lot, but I just didn't know if I was smart enough. Didn't think I could do it because I'm really not that great at math. Well, I'm not yet anyway. But I felt like he was so supportive and still is. Because thankfully I got him as a teacher again this year, and I hope I do next year.
Skye, who you shouting out to?
Mr. Nenni! Mr. Nenni!
Way to be, Mr. Nenni!
All right, Skye. Hang on, let me move my stash. What advice would you give yourself as a 7th grader?
Dear 7th grade self, I think you were a little bit self-conscious of things that you didn't need to be self-conscious of. You were distracted with things and you didn't have to be. No one really cares about that stuff. Like sometimes you think so many people are judging you, but it's really only yourself. Like it's not really what you think it is sometimes. If you just be yourself, then you're so much happier. Like yeah, I don't know. I just felt like that's my advice to my 7th grade self.
Thank you for sharing. Skye, before we close out, is there anything else that you would like to share with educators or students watching?
So I guess for educators, I'd say as a student myself, it makes the whole world a difference. Like it's so different if you care about your student and if you show that you care about your student and you make them feel heard and like they're important. I would say, yeah, like they're important, because a lot of times kids think that they don't feel like they're important or anything, and then when someone does something and they say something and it just kind of like makes them feel better, and they feel heard, recognized, seen. So I know definitely for me, I've had teachers that have done things like that, and they've said something kind, or they've said, wow, Skye, good job in your quiz, like you're doing really great. It can mean the world. And then for students, just like be yourself. Just if yourself, then that's good.
How can you help somebody be their self or be less self-conscious? Like, do you have any advice on that end?
I think there's always a journey to get there, and sometimes the road there might be hard, but you will get there if you just keep on just trying to be yourself. And by being yourself, just if something feels wrong, don't do it. You know, if you feel like really uncomfortable with something, then you don't have to do it. You don't have to be like everyone else. You can just be yourself. I still get judged sometimes for being weird, but it feels way better.
What?
Weird?
What?
What?
Weird?
What?
What does that word mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't understand what you're talking about with this weird talk. I mean,
know.
I don't.
It's a little bit crazy.
It is. I mean,
It
it's
is
wild.
crazy.
It's
It's
nonsense.
very crazy.
You know, show me
know.
where it says weird in the dictionary. I want to hear what
Not
the
there. It's
definition
weird.
is. Oh, I don't
Crazy.
know.
That's crazy.
Great.
Crazy.
Hello.
Howdy, mate.
This is Kayla Ebby with the Educator Chipotle Challenge on day 62. And we are doing an Educator Shout Out interview with
Skye Fallon.
Thank you so much, Skye, for being a part of this. And to all you educators out there, you are making a difference. And in particular, Skye, who did we shout out to today? Who did you shout out to?
Mr. Nenni!
Mr. Nenni!
And Miss Kimmel.
Miss Kimmel!
Mama Kim Kim.
Mama Kim Kim. Y'all are so amazing.
Yeah.
And I have the pleasure of working with you.
And
It seems
all my
as-
other teachers are great too because the school I go to is amazing. Yeah. So.
Thank you for taking good care of her. And to all you students out there, keep it real. And it's a journey to figure out what your real is, and hopefully you'll see and you'll feel that life feels good. You feel alive when you can really be true to who you are.
Yeah.
So, much love, keep it real, see you on the other side.
Lo tiene fuerte bailando y se baila así.
Say it down under.
Down under.
Down under.